Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Mcintire Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
Welcome into the program. This is your Game Plan for Retirement with Northwestern Ohio's resource for a common sense approach to planning. He is president and founder of Mcintire Retirement Services. Chris Mcintire once again with us. Chris, welcome back in.
Good morning, Peter. Good to be with you. Good to be with everybody out there. Hope you're doing well.
I am. We hope you are, Chris, as well as all of the listeners. And we appreciate, Chris, your insight and guidance on the planning matters that are so important. And Chris, on today's program, going to be talking about a lot of material. We've got some great reports that you've got available, put together, the 10 steps to prepare for retirement, the 8 moments to consider moving your money, the 2 most important questions to answer before you retire, the 1 factor determining your retirement, the 3 biggest expenses. We'll cover a lot of different information on today's program, Chris. But starting off, a little tip of the cap here that upcoming next week is International Women's Day. And Chris, I know that your wife is part of the practice there, and we've got all kinds of ladies in our lives that we care about, women listening to the program who are planning proactively. Chris, when you get down to it, maybe a few differences, but I think the largest difference in planning for women versus men is the life expectancy difference that we have, and women have to plan for a longer life.
Yeah, no question, Peter. And, longevity risk amplifies or increases the opportunities of all the other risks that come into play. Women have to, plan for the same thing as men do, but only have to do it for a longer period of time, typically. And, it reminds me of a story. I just recently met with some folks that are going to become clients of ours, and the Mister's 79 years old, and his biggest priority was protecting the wife. He had a bout of cancer, and thankfully has survived and everything, but changes the perspective and wants to make sure that his wife is taken care of, right? Because he's 5 years older than she is. And then, you add on the life expectancy there. So you could be looking at 15, 20 years, potentially being widowed.
Yeah, indeed, that would change perspective, Chris. And I know for many out there that have been afflicted by similar situations, it does change the perspective. All of a sudden, planning becomes an even higher priority. And we talked a few weeks back about planning to protect our spouses and our families and our loved ones. That would be great material to review. I think if anybody wants to go to the archives of the program, of course, the podcasts are available online. If you can go to Mcintire Retirement Services, you can find them there. And that might be a great episode to listen to. But Chris, getting into it, planning takes into account both the predictable and, to whatever extent possible, the unpredictable elements, and tries to prepare for those. And right now, we've got a lot of people worried about the market, about politics, about taxes. What do we need to consider when looking at all of those things? What are some of the most important considerations that people are making right now?
Sure. And, we're also very concerned about the debt. That's probably on issue number 1 with most folks, given the deficit. And I think the biggest challenge that we're facing, or the biggest concern that we hear from our clients, Peter, is, I've got money sitting in the bank and it's doing absolutely nothing. And how do I keep up with inflation? So hedging that inflation risk has certainly been a challenge for us. And, from my side of the conference table, it is, we deal with folks that haven't done anything to prepare for the nursing home by and large. And, we talk about International Women's Day. And if you were to, do a sample of what's the population of the average long-term care facility, it is overwhelmingly, widowed females. Especially with Caucasians or whites, that's the largest demographic. And, if I only had to deal with the the female side of a husband-wife relationship, there'd be a lot more planning gets done. Men think it's not going to happen to them. We don't have anything to worry about. She should be okay. And where women, in a lot of cases are going to be very decisive. I need to get this taken care of. So that's a shout out to you ladies there.
A little bit more realistic. We fellas tend to have that invincibility syndrome. And then again, Chris, I think that a lot of guys feel as though they would be able to go out into the woods and survive eating tree bark, which isn't necessarily going to be true either, nor is it what anybody truly desires. And so, Chris, I think you're right. The tendency there is to procrastinate, to act as if that's a non-issue when we absolutely need to address that. And everybody's planning, but as you stated, the demographics would show that specifically the fairer among us, the ladies out there, need to be thinking about those long-term care situations, scenarios, planning, and protection. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be talking about a number of issues again on today's program with Chris Mcintire, your guide. If you've got questions or concerns, if you'd like to address these things in your planning, make sure that you have a plan in place. He does put together your game plan for retirement. The plan is a snapshot of where you are now, a discussion of and writing down of goals so that they do become tangible, and then written instructions on how to work to achieve those goals. And if you'd like that game plan for retirement, your game plan for retirement, pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, one of the reports that we had today was the 2 questions to ask before retiring and the number one most important factor. I see these running together on a theme that we're talking about now. What is the single financial risk that could make the biggest impact on your retirement? And as we've already alluded to, it's longevity. That's going to be the factor in planning that we need to address.
Peter, nowadays, people are going to spend more time in retirement than they did working. So if you think about the amount of money that it takes to get you through that retirement and all the things that can happen to that money between the time you retire and the time you end up in heaven, there are a lot of different risks that you need to mitigate. And especially if you're married, that amplifies some of the risks that are out there because, hey, you might be used to relying on 2 Social Security benefits. Now you have to rely on 1 if something was to happen to somebody. And where are you going to go to make up that difference? As we get older in retirement in our investing careers, the focus changes from growth, where we're more heavily invested in stocks for long-term growth potential, to risk mitigation of market losses and shifting typically over in that fixed income bucket or the bond bucket. And again, there, the interest rate environment has also decreased the amount of interest payments that are being paid out. And, that's reflective in the bond market and also in the CD market, if you will, too, Peter. So those are, a couple of the big ones on the front burner right now.
So, Chris, with longevity being a factor, yet interest rates are so low and the market unpredictable and volatile, how do we eliminate the possibility of this risk of longevity ruining our retirement and turn it back into something that we can hope for?
Sure. You want to look at what accounts and investments are available to generate that lifetime income. Some people have the old school pension. Some people have gone out and purchased their own annuity to give them a lifetime income payment. And if they pass away, maybe it goes on to their spouse. Many different shapes and sizes in the annuity world. We've done some shows on those before to, try to keep people up to speed, from the variable annuities that are directly invested in the market to the safer, more secure side of the annuity world, the fixed index annuity, the deferred income annuity, the immediate annuity, a number of different avenues there. And, for a lot of folks that are out there, you've spent your entire career living off of the income that you create when you go to work, right? I'm trading my time for money. In retirement, it isn't any different. The only thing is you are responsible for your own income. And, why not get the basic living expenses covered between Social Security, pension to cover, housing and transportation and food and, the basic month to month living that it takes all of us, and get that taken care of, because that, if we go through another pandemic or something, you could say, all right, well, no matter what, I can cover my basic living expenses. And I think, in the year 2020 here into winter 2021, we're all just basically, living off of basic living expenses anyway, because not everybody's going out to restaurants, and so we know exactly what we're spending. What do we get, 2 months to the gallon?
Well, Chris, I think the theme there of what you stressed and emphasized is income. The pension, the Social Security, maybe the annuity. It's our ability to spend, and it is the plan for being able to rely on that ability to spend that truly is the factor that will help us to address longevity.
Yeah, I have conversations with clients all day, every day, and I just having one. He was down in Florida, and we were just touching base with one another. It was a friendly conversation, and that's all it was. He wanted to run something by me. I think it was to do with GameStop stock or something like that, to make a joke of it. And I said, Mike, aren't you glad that you've got your pension? He worked for the state of Ohio, so he's got a very nice pension. His wife's getting ready to start Social Security, and for them, that's about $7,000 a month. I mean, that's a pretty good income in retirement when you don't have any debt.
Well, again, if you would like to get that plan put together, Chris Mcintire is your resource. Pick up the phone, give him a call, 800-868-1194. That is 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Well, continuing on with these great resources that you've got put together, Chris, these guides, we talk about preparing to make that transition to retirement and having that plan in place, but a lot of people don't really understand the steps that go into having that plan and being prepared to make that transition. Whether we're working and saving our way toward retirement, still investing in those retirement accounts, we're within earshot of retirement, or even already in the retirement community, going through your 10 steps to prepare for retirement certainly would be beneficial in our confidence in the feeling that we do have that plan in place and have gone through the necessary steps and protocol in order to answer and address these risks and questions.
Yeah, no question about it, Peter. The number of issues that, people come to us with, I like solving problems, and, we talk, I'm a tax geek here, is how we develop strategies to, help people accomplish the specific goals that they have. I think we all have these basic, from the 30,000 foot goal level of, look, here's what I want my first 5 years of retirement to look like. What do you want the next 10 years to look like? And what's it look like in 20 years from now? And, you and I have gone back and forth, and it's funny how those goals shift as you go through retirement. For those of you that are just getting ready to pull the trigger right now, you might be saying, I'm not worried about leaving anything to my children. I've worked my whole career. This is all about us. And then you're going to find out that as you get into, later on into your retirement, your concerns are going to be, how do I, give money to my kids, so if I go into a nursing home that I don't spend it to you. That's how that conversations change over time.
Well, again, if you would like this guide, the 10 steps to prepare for retirement, Chris can certainly provide that to you, or the planning process moves through all 10 of these questions and steps to prepare, defining the budget and the spending plan, defining the sources of guaranteed income, defining the income gap. That is a mathematical equation that helps you arrive at how much do you need to retire, or how much will your portfolio need to produce for you. Helping you strategize on Social Security, maximize, of course, that available source of lifetime income, as well as your pensions, formulating the rest of the income plan, understanding your risk exposure, calculating taxes, consolidating those like qualified accounts. A little house cleaning always helps us to prepare for retirement, considering inflation, and reviewing and updating legal documents. All would be included in that process to design your game plan for retirement. And if you would like to get that plan again in your hands, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-868-1194. That is 800-868-1194. Now, Chris, I know a lot of people are worried about the market. A lot of people are trying to get dollars better positioned for retirement. A lot of people are worried about taxes and inflation. And for those reasons, you've got this second guide, the 8 moments to move your money. Some of these may help people get a better understanding and feel for when it is appropriate to make financial moves, and specifically what those financial moves can help them achieve or help them address as far as the risks that they may be exposed to.
Yeah, it's funny, Peter. I had a couple of conversations here recently with current clients that, are actively involved in their company sponsored retirement plan, the 401k in this case. And they were wanting to know, can we take money out of that 401k and move it into a Roth IRA? Well, they weren't 59 and a half. So in their case, they couldn't move any money. They did not have a Roth 401k option. So they had to leave it set there and, make the determination on whether or not they can contribute to their own Roth IRA outside of the company plan was our conversation. And then had a phone call with another client that says, hey, I was working at this other job. I'm done there. I did start that new job we talked about. What do we do with my old 401k? Do I leave it set there? Do I move it into the new one? Do I move it into the existing IRA I have with you? So, those are some of the times when, it's very common for people to move money, if you will. The other most important time, I would say, Peter, is, for those folks that are over the age of 59 and a half, now you can typically do in-service rollover. So, you might still be working at the Whirlpool Corporation in Clyde, Ohio here, or down in Findlay, depending on where you're at. And you want to say, look, I want to do some retirement planning. I want to build my own income plan. The only option I have in my 401k is I got some mutual funds I can pick, or I can get some Whirlpool stock. But, I know there's much more to retirement than just mutual funds. And so, we help a lot of people, get some of those positions in place, ahead of when they go to retire. Doesn't that make most sense, right? Wouldn't you rather be proactive versus reactive?
Absolutely. And there are opportunities that you have available where you can make those moves. You need to identify when you've got the opportunity to take control. That in-service distribution might be one of those that applies to you. And to find out if that does and what you should do, if you've got that opportunity, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, another one on the top of your list here that I think a lot of people either realized some opportunity last year with all the market volatility or maybe missed some opportunity is in rebalancing. This is something that we should be doing on an ongoing and regular basis, and is really one of the fundamental principles that is going to ultimately help lead to long-term financial success. Unfortunately, with the way that most employer-sponsored plans, our retirement savings, in large part is kind of done automatically and out of sight, out of mind, this is one of those critical steps that a lot of people miss.
Sure is, Peter. And, we as private wealth managers, if you will, part of our fiduciary responsibility is to do some of those rebalancing. And what Peter means by that, guys, is, if your overall risk tolerance scores you at, hey, I don't want to be any more than 50% in stocks, basically 50% in bonds, some sort of combination in there. If the stock market goes up 20%, but the bond market goes down 10%, all of a sudden that 50-50 mix gets way out of whack and you get overexposed to equity prices. So on a quarterly basis, then coming back in and putting that back into that measure of that 50% stock, 50% bond type mixture is a good example of and why you want to do that, because at some point you'll get stung in the future.
Well, again, if you would like to have a plan put together, if you would like to work and have a relationship with a planner who is going to be proactive in taking care of these steps with you, for you, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Next on the list here of moments to move your money. And Chris, this is a big one. I think a lot of people are paying attention to this, a lot more proactive measures on this one this year, maybe than ever before, but Roth conversions, being proactive with that tax liability. You were mentioning it earlier, but this is a big moment to consider moving your money in order to make yourself more efficient with your tax liability.
Certainly, just before the end of the year, Peter, the government, introduced another huge stimulus package in that 900 billion to $1 trillion package. They've been negotiating almost another 2 trillion right now. Okay, so let's call that 3 trillion to make, what's a couple hundred billion amongst friends anyway. Well, where do you think they get that money from when they issue the bonds to outside investors to get that money that they're handing out, through taxes? And, if, you don't have to, I don't think you need to be an Elon Musk, a rocket scientist here, to say, pretty good chance taxes are going to go up. At some point, we'll need to pay some of this debt back.
And that coming from the taxpayers means that we could potentially see higher taxes into the future. Those tax deferred counts, Chris, specifically are a target for where those dollars, where that tax revenue would come from. And so retirees, by nature of the way that we've saved in these tax deferred accounts, are indeed subject to, and in fact, a target for tax increases into the future. We don't want that to derail our retirement. We want to plan proactively. So absolutely a moment that you should consider moving your money. And there are plenty of strategies to go ahead and be proactive with that tax bill and control it, maybe minimize or reduce it. And it's part of your game plan for retirement that Chris Mcintire will put together with you and for you as you're discussing your goals. Perhaps one of them is paying less in taxes. Well, Chris would make some recommendations on how you can achieve that goal. And again, to get that game plan for retirement in your hands, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. 800-868-1194. Chris, just a few others on this list before we move on here. Fees are too high. You've got assets that are underperforming. Your time horizon has changed, or you are looking to consolidate and do a little house cleaning. Again, these are the list of 8 moments to move your money. Those are just a laundry list of additional reasons and moments people may realize, hey, it's time to move our money.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. I'm going to continue on that tax side of things that I like is,
Sure.
Those Roth conversions are incredibly important to consider for our younger listeners out there today. In the Secure Act that they passed at the end of 2019 is a perfect example of legislative changes. That means when you become the beneficiary of like your parents' IRA, that account's got to be emptied within 10 years. Previous to that, you could stretch it out over the rest of your lifetime. So just another example of some subtle changes that are coming in, in the $1 trillion IRA account. And remember, all those dollars are taxable. Roth IRA dollars are income tax free.
Well, again, if you would like to be more efficient with your money, keep more of it, you've got to identify the strategies to control that tax bill, maybe realize it, but we are in a low tax environment. Now is the time to have those discussions. If you are saving for your retirement in tax deferred accounts, if you've got $1 already saved in those tax deferred accounts, it is time to talk this over with a qualified professional. Chris Mcintire certainly can have those conversations with you. Pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194. And Chris, what savers and investors really need to realize is those with larger balance are going to have more costly tax implications, not just proportional, because we've got a progressive tax system. So the more that you have, the more income that you have, the higher the tax rate. It's not just 10% of 50,000 versus 10% of 100,000. The person with a higher income, the person with a higher balance has a higher tax liability, and therefore it is more advantageous for them to be proactive with controlling their tax bill.
No question about it, Peter. Taxes are inevitable. tax rates are very low right now. Most of us would be of the opinion that there's a greater chance they're going to increase versus staying at the status quo. In understanding, what tax bracket you're in, and knowing what type of flexibility you have to move money from taxable to tax-free certainly would be in your best interest, we would think.
Well, again, adding up all of the cost in retirement, it can be pretty expensive. Taxes are one of our largest known expenses. And another report that Chris has, the 3 largest expenses in retirement and how to plan to control them, it details this as well as a couple others that we're about to talk about here. But if you would like to control some of these expenses, if you would like more confidence that you'll be able to handle retirement's expenses, you need a plan. Chris Mcintire, your planner, your resource, ladies and gentlemen, to get your game plan for retirement. Concise, consolidated, easy to understand language on the steps that you should be taking in order to achieve your goals. Pick up the phone and give a call, 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And again, Chris, at the basis of handling these large expenses that we will face in retirement is that written plan, a written plan for how to generate income, a plan that has specifically been proactive and thought through the expenses that we may face.
Certainly, we're all going to go through times where we're disappointed in how our money is working for us. Given the market cycle, some of those things you can't control other than to mitigate the risk on it. So why not create a strategy that you're not relying on watching the business channel every day, all day. And there are better things in life to do than that, folks.
Well, again, having that plan in place going to give you so much confidence. The only way to combat the possibility of expenses catastrophically exceeding your assets is to have a written plan, a spending plan, a retirement income plan in writing, one that you can refer back to, and one that you are accountable to, that you are going to check up on and make sure that you are on track. And again, working with a qualified professional such as Chris Mcintire can help you do just that. Sort of your financial physical trainer and accountability coach. He's going to help you along the way in formulating the plan and then making sure that you are working it and sticking to it and reviewing and updating, making sure that you're meeting benchmarks and setting new goals and expectations into the future on an ongoing basis. That's the relationship between a true planner and their client. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for that relationship, if you'd like a plan put together, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, the largest known expense in retirement, it's not what you make, it's what you keep, and taxes, probably the largest bill that we will certainly have in retirement. The next one, touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the program, but our largest potential expense, healthcare. This is another one that needs to be carefully planned for as we are looking toward our financial future.
Yes, certainly is, Peter. This is where the inflation can bite you, especially those of you on like Social Security, for example, because, Social Security, still uses the same consumer price index that all urban wage earners use, so it's not nearly as impacted as heavily on healthcare like it would, most retirees is where they're going to spend more of their money. So trying to keep pace with what you're spending on medical expenses. And, I can tell you that because we pay for our own health insurance at almost $1,700 a month. So I truly get that. And, folks, you need to be prepared for that. And, not just your Medicare premiums or your supplements or, your out of pocket. Some of those are minute. It's the potential that you have to go into some sort of long-term care facility, or you need somebody to come into your home and take care of you. You're talking, $6,000 to $10,000 a month potential. Why not mitigate that risk just like you do? Most of you out here that are listening, I'm sure all of you have your house insured in case it burns down. And what's that have? Like a 1 in 1,200 chance of burning down. So why are you wasting money? The chances of that happening are minute. The chances of needing some long-term care could be 50%, granted, it's not going to happen to you. It's the other listener, obviously.
Well, Chris, and I know that you're saying that to prove a point or to emphasize the point. Of course, you're not advocating anybody goes without protecting what is the roof over their head and one of their largest assets. Of course, we do have that home insurance, but with the chances, if you look at the statistics on the number of people who end up using that home insurance for whatever reason versus the number that end up needing some type of assistance with healthcare expenses. Obviously, there is a statement to be made there in favor of, yes, going ahead and securing some kind of protection against that potential, because it is much, much more likely to occur.
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. And understand the options, folks. Many options out there to take control and be in charge. The plan you come up with is probably going to be better than the default plan that the state has for you.
Well, again, if you need help with this, pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194, the number to reach Mcintire Retirement Services, your resource, ladies and gentlemen, for that common sense approach to planning, to go through all of these steps in the planning process. If you'd like any of the reports that we discussed today, the 10 steps to prepare for retirement, the 8 moments to move your money, the 2 questions to answer before retiring, the 1 most important factor, and the 3 largest potential expenses and how to plan to control them, pick up the phone, request any of that material, and Chris Mcintire is happy to provide that for you. You can go online, Mcintire Retirement Services. You can revisit the program from today. You can share that with friends, neighbors, loved ones, family, anybody who needs to hear this information, as well as, of course, review the archives of previous editions of the program. Lots of different topics, important issues discussed there. McIntyreRetirementServices.com, or request your game plan for retirement by calling 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. Chris, another big one that people are worried about right now is inflation. We've touched on that a couple times during the course of the program, but more details on that covered in that final report as well. The 3 biggest expenses. Just due to time limitations here, it always moves by so quickly on the program, as it does in life, and that's why we encourage people not to procrastinate in planning. They may miss opportunities, but Chris, we always appreciate your time and sharing the information that you do here with us, and of course the listeners across Northwestern Ohio.
It's my pleasure, Peter. Thank you everybody for listening today, and stay safe out there.
Visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.